I just want to do a video talking about my long-term predictions and how they were super wrong. So I want to go over some things that I learned just from talking charts and talking fundamentals. So the first thing is I just absolutely don't even care about fundamentals anymore because they just really don't even affect the market. It's really all just about technical analysis, and the only fundamental thing that really matters, in my opinion, is whether people are scared or not. That's your fundamental analysis. So with the charts here, looking at this, when we broke down, my first thought was that we're just gonna hold lower and continue lower, and that these would be some of the targets that we take out. So sorry, I cut that one short. I thought eventually we'd get back to the bottom of this broadening formation. Now, although that is very possible, it just don't look like it's happening right now, because once this was reclaimed, once bulls reclaimed this support area right here, then you think it's gonna hold and you're just gonna continue higher. Now, one of the other problems was we never really had a breakout until we got to this point recently. So once that broke out, now you kind of just update your update your expectations and just kind of take it, I don't know, 1 to 3 months at a time. So I can't really make any predictions past like really past a month, but 3 months is like max. So right now what it's looking like is once this decided to hold, the next thing you're thinking is, okay, we get a breakout. If we get a breakout, then the next place we're probably going is back towards the highs of this wedge or channel thing. So one other thing I've kind of learned since making these long-term predictions is just that every single stock is just in a very different place. And although SPY has done something like this, I can show you stocks like Target that have just been still getting obliterated. So it's like you kind of just got to take it step by step, because on the other hand, like I can show you, ARC did exactly what I thought it would do. And so it's like even the difference between SPY and QQQ has gone way further than what I would have anticipated. And I definitely didn't think we were going to bottom out first and here with just how the market was last year. But like I say, I just tend to disregard chart patterns now. I don't really care about chart patterns. I don't care about candlestick patterns as much. I don't really care about fundamental analysis, because if you try to use logic and say, okay, if Apple, I used to kind of think about the market like this. If Apple peaked here when rates were at 0%, how could you possibly buy it here when rates are at what, 5%? Like, how could you possibly justify buying that? But it doesn't matter, because the charts say that people are obviously buying. So the buy signal for Apple was here, and I didn't take it necessarily, but it kind of definitely made me start to say, okay, maybe the market really is moving back higher. But even something like Apple, you can't really find a fundamental reason why it's back above all-time highs. Like what? Like why? The charts suggest otherwise, though. So is you break resistance, you keep going higher. That's just as simple as it is. So even stocks like Nvidia, how could you is AI really that serious that you made this type of move off lows? Was it like a 200% move off lows? 300% off those October lows, 340. So it's like, that's just unreal. Like, who's thinking that, right? So if you relieve yourself of those expectations based off these fundamental analyses that you make, then you will be able to play the charts a lot better. And that's what I've been doing most of this year. So definitely very different. Something that I've been big on lately is just finding stuff like, these breakdowns below support that, once you get back through it, you tend to think it's going to hold, right? So here's where you get back through it. Then you come back and you hold right here. So that's kind of your basis for saying, okay, let's just get a little bit bullish here. Let's start targeting these highs. And you're not thinking all-time highs, but you're not thinking bearish anymore either. So that's kind of how I've been playing it, just taking it kind of week by week, day by day for the most part. And even something like TLT, I kind of been, I mean, you can find a reason to be um, bullish or bearish here, fundamentally at least. Like, you can think whatever you want to think, but the absolute only thing that matters is this, all of this support up in here. So me personally, these like traps have been working really well. So I don't know, it's kind of like fading myself basically. So like in a situation where I might find myself wanting to short something, I just step back and say, okay, should I do the opposite? Like, do I have a technical reason to do the opposite? So stuff like this, typically where you'll think, okay, actually let's go to the daily because you probably see it a little bit better. So if you go to the daily time frame on TLT bonds, then you'll think, let me short TLT below a break of this channel. And I'm gonna make the channel a little bit thicker so you can see what I'm talking about, because that's the kind of stuff that you just taught initially when you first start trading. But realistically speaking, and this is what I mean by fade myself, it's not like I'm just out here doing the opposite of what I think, but like I'm taking it a step further and thinking like, okay, do I really want to short that? Or like, why do I want to short that? You get a break below this channel, 9 times out of 10, young me is saying, beginner trader me is saying short this because it's gonna go fill this gap. New me is saying, okay, if we break below this channel, you got to break below obvious support, right? Obvious support, and then you're retesting the breakout. So I say you're retesting the breakout. So that lines up right with breaking below the lows of this channel. So now what I would think is, it's not like you can't get a good short off of that, but what I would be thinking is they're probably going to trap people, maybe send it down here and then just rip this back through. So that's the kind of stuff that I think, and those are the type of signals that I look out for. Now, I'm not just going to go buying TLT with the expectation that it's going to do that, but I would like to probably, like I said earlier, wait to let it break down and then see if we can get back above that support that we just lost, hold it, and then we think and send it, because now I can place my stop right below, because why would we be back below it? You feel what I'm saying? So that's just kind of how you got to do it, because you have a bearish breakdown where a retest could be successful, but it also could be a trap. And the same goes for bulls. So if you have something like, my typo is crazy right now, like Twilio, where you get a break out of a range, there's your bullish break right here, but it doesn't really go anywhere, right? So you kind of just gotta, I guess you gotta be a bit more patient. You gotta be a bit more patient with this market. So even like Netflix, you got a nice break out of this range, but it kind of just came right back through. So being patient and just waiting, and wait for those false breaks. So let the false break happen, and once you let the false break happen, you kind of get a lot more information, you get a lot more data. So just being careful, man, and like I say, just be mindful of the fact that the market will do whatever it wants to do. And I mean, SPY, from this point in this video, all I'm thinking right now is that we have to be bullish as long as this support holds. Now, I don't mean be bullish right here, but you're at least anticipating more upside, because on a day-to-day basis, something like this could happen. Let me kind of just, there are so many different possibilities, and like right now with SPX, I don't really know exactly, I don't really have a clue what's gonna happen. So I can make a case for a slight correction. I can make a case for a small correction back down here, and then hold that and bounce and go back there, or even make new all-time highs. I could also make a case for a correction that comes back here and then goes to the bottom of this channel or wedge thing and retest that support break. So either or could happen. I don't know which one is more likely to happen, but I will say bears have a lot of work to do, because Bulls really have, once you start reclaiming resistance and holding it and pushing higher and breaking through more resistance and reclaiming more resistance, then you're just in an uptrend. That's just as simple as it is. So either scenario could happen. But you can look at rates and say, oh, rates are going higher. We just found out rates are going higher, but the market moved higher too. So it's like, why does the market not care anymore? You feel what I'm saying? Like, does that not impact earnings? Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, just kind of forget about all of the fundamental stuff because the market doesn't make sense. Like, you just have to be technical. Find an entry, find a stop loss, or know your stop loss. Know where you want to take profit and trim along the way if it's going in your direction. So just be mindful of those things and understand that the market can change at any point. So, very bearish down here at the time because, like, why wouldn't I be? Like, how would I possibly know? You know what I'm saying? If you go back and look at that, why would you be thinking, oh, yeah, downtrend, bear market's going to end, downtrend going to end? You feel what I'm saying? So, fundamentally, you had no reason. Now I don't care about fundamentals, but I will say, had I known what I know now, like back then, I would have been saying to myself, okay, we're trying to reclaim this support. So we reclaim that, then I'm thinking, okay, we can probably make it up here. So let it reclaim it, play the retest, and then send it, right? So then as time passes, that's exactly what you get. You reclaim it, and there's your entry right there. And it's great because I remember this very week, but I just didn't get I wasn't really too confident in it, but you can see that's where support held right there when it reclaimed this right here. This is where your lows were. So as long as those lows hold, you get up there, you hit that target we talked about, and then you reevaluate the situation and you say, okay, price could come right back down. You feel what I'm saying? Or price could just go sideways and then break, right? So that's what it ended up doing. So you just got to take it week by week, man, month by month, and quarter by quarter at the absolute max. But just be careful and understand that stocks are very different, and just because some stocks are down 70% does not mean that this index will go down 70%. Because even look at Meta, like, what in the freak? You feel what I'm saying? Like, exact same scenario here. You had support that broke very, very decisively. But once you get back above it, right here, you start to think, well, we're above it. So, I'm targeting this. I'm targeting this resistance. And I'm targeting this resistance. And I'm targeting this resistance. Now, realistically speaking, every time you hit that resistance point, you need to stop and reevaluate the situation. Clearly, if you have momentum, then ride it. But, this was a good point to stop and reevaluate. We're not saying you're going to catch this whole move. You just need to catch chunks and pieces. So you catch chunks and pieces of those moves, and you just stop and reevaluate situations. Like here, this was a great time to stop and reevaluate because you're saying to yourself, okay, I don't know if bulls are going to hold this or not. Once they hold it, say, okay, cool, we can move higher. Now let's target that, right? So now let's target that next resistance point. And because maybe you cut right here on that initial move higher, and you say, okay, let's see if they can hold it. So they come back and hold it, and then you say, okay, now let me target it. Let me catch this part of the move. And then same thing going forward. Like if bulls decide to hold it, which they did right here, you say, okay, now let me take it up to my next resistance point that I'm watching right here. See what I'm saying? So, that's just it. Like, you just stop and reevaluate the situation at critical points, and you can do a lot of damage with that. So just take the market day by day. I'll say week by week and month by month if you're, medium term investor. If you're a longer term investor and trying to make long term predictions, you got to take it like month by month or quarter by quarter. But that's just what it is, man. Like, a lot of unexpected stuff can happen. You can make some wild moves. So, even like Tesla, like, well, this one is crazy because I actually did think that it was going to stop. Right? It's crazy because this very week I went to buy some Tesla, but I wanted to get it down here. But here's a good signal to buy. You got a couple weeks of consolidation, some bullish candles that ended up breaking higher and held higher because you already know you got support down here in this green area. I mean, I've talked about this publicly, I believe, definitely in the Discord. So I wanted this, and I wanted this. It just didn't come low enough for me at the time, but definitely could have took a shot. But Tesla contracts are pretty expensive too, so I wasn't really in a rush to buy that. But if I were buying shares, I did tell people that this was a good spot to start buying. But um, I think October, November were definitely rough for me, and then once January came, I kind of started to say, okay, like I kind of started to accept that the market can just do anything, and this was pretty much that point for me, that breaking point for me, and just realizing that really you just really are gonna do anything, and fundamentals don't matter whatsoever. Because again, like I say, why is Tesla a good buy right here, right now, when it couldn't even hold it when rates were at zero? You feel what I'm saying? So it's like you just got to take the market week by week, man, and just kind of forget about everything else. But there's an update for y'all. I don't really have long-term predictions. I don't really do that anymore. But just track the market, look for some good signals, and just do your thing. So peace out. I'll holler at y'all later.